SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
Good Saturday morning to everybody, and welcome to Biz Talk. Joining me, I'm Terry Pinch, and joining me this week as co-host is John Drengler. John, welcome to the show.
Hi, Terry. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Yeah, just great.
Excellent. Okay, this week our guest is Susie Van Ekeren from the Wisconsin Swim Academy. So we'll get started with Susie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thanks, John, for having me.
Good to see you, Susie.
So, Susie, we're going to start at the beginning. Where did the Wisconsin Swim Academy idea come from?
That was an adventure. I was a mom of 4 boys, and they were all pretty young. And one Father's Day weekend, my husband and I decided to put an above-ground pool in our backyard. And I wanted a heater so we could extend our season a little bit. And my husband, being a banker, was a little bit of a penny pincher. And he said, well, if you want a heater, then you're going to have to figure out a way to pay for that. So I came up with the idea of teaching swim lessons to friends and family that I knew. I literally set up a table in my backyard. Every single morning I baked fresh bread or brownies or muffins, and I had coffee and orange juice and whatever was needed. And I was really catering to the moms who were bringing their kids over. And 2 kids at a time, I would teach swimming lessons in my backyard from about 8 in the morning until probably noon or 11. The first year I probably had maybe, 10 students, maybe 13 students. But by the second summer, I had over 50 students. And that was kind of how it started. I really didn't mean to create a business out of it like it is today. But that is kind of what happened.
So, just to step back even from there, then, were you a lifeguard in your youth, or taught swimming before?
Well, I did manage a swim school. When you're 4 boys and you're, they're all 18 months apart, you kind of, the first thing for safety was I wanted to make sure that they learned how to swim. So there was another swim school within our area that, I would go to and take the boys to learn how to swim. And they noticed me right away. And so they actually did ask me if I wanted to get out of the house and do some teaching in the evenings. So I did actually teach for them for a while. I was never on swim team as a child. I took swimming lessons. We biked uphill both ways, to the pool every single day. And I think starting at the age of 5. But I was never on swim team. I was never a lifeguard. I didn't do any of that kind of stuff. But I did have just a love for the water. So, but through when I started teaching, through this school, I realized that, I probably had a little gift for it and didn't realize that. I think it was more about the fact that I loved children. Like, I loved kids. I loved playing with them in the water. I loved playing with my boys in the water whenever we were in our pool. So I did have a little bit of teaching background, but other than that, I didn't have any other experience.
So you start your business in your pool and you get to 50 people taking lessons. What were you thinking about? What happens next? What got you going?
I'm not sure I really was thinking at all, apparently. But I think at that point, when I had that, I realized that there was a huge need for people to learn, and that the need that they really wanted was that they wanted really smaller much smaller class sizes. So after that, we did have a really rainy summer, and so I was doing makeup lessons, and we kind of stumbled upon this hotel, and they allowed us to come in, and we did some makeup lessons there, and then all of my parents talked me into doing it full time all year round. And at that time during the school year, I was actually working in the school system with kids with special abilities and loved it. Like, that was where my heart was. And so, but I realized that I made a lot more money, unfortunately, in the summertime than I did all year in the school system. So, I knew I wanted to incorporate especially those kids into my business as well, because there was a huge need for it. And so I talked to the hotel and I set up an agreement with them, and they allowed me to come in 2 kids at a time and rent some space from them. And that was kind of where it went.
So how long did you stay at the hotel?
Oh my gosh. Well, we were not just at that hotel, but in fully over the years, we were at the hotel for probably 15 years. But we also had rented space from an apartment complex over on Calumet Street. We were constantly fighting and looking for more pool space. We had an upper level, we developed over the time, we developed an upper level class for kids that weren't in swim team. We didn't have a swim team, but, wanted to like have some upper level skills and maybe get into swim teams. So then we rented some pool space at the high schools. There were at least 2 other hotels that would rent to us over time. And so, yeah, but 15 years, I would say was how long we were in hotels and renting space.
So you're having to find places to hold classes. You're going between hotels and apartment complexes. I can imagine it was fairly easy to get to a decision saying I want my own place, but there's a lot involved with having your own place. How did you reach that decision?
There was a lot of negotiating with my husband. But we did talk to, I had the benefit of, I believe it was 2015. I found the United States Swim School Association, and, I, had the benefit of going to, I joined them and realized that I was not alone, that there were hundreds of swim schools across the country that were starting out as backyard pools just like mine, and they're much larger than mine. And so I ended up going to a conference one year by myself, and I got to talk to other people in the industry, and they really helped me kind of like everybody in our industry, they just want to see you succeed. They want to help you succeed. We're all just vying for the same benefit of stopping drowning and making sure that we can bring those statistics down. And so between that and then talking to some investment groups around here that, have built businesses, getting advice from them, and understanding, how to put projections together and how many students we needed to be able to pay for certain things like land and building. We actually bought our land. It was a crazy story, like sometimes you just know when things are meant to be, but we bought our land 8 years before we built on it. I always knew I wanted that spot, and I really was struggling with the current manager of the hotel. She just wasn't a very nice person. The owners were great, but the manager was not fantastic. And I left there many times in tears. And then one day I happened to drive down the road to this piece of land that was open. And I just called the realtor on there, and he knew my husband, so he didn't return the call to me. He returned it to my husband, and my husband called me and was like, "What are you doing?" And it just so happened that the restaurant next door to that land owned that piece of land as well. And they were shutting down the restaurant. So they wanted to dump the land cheaply. And so we got the opportunity to build, and that was kind of our first investment in it. And we knew that at that point, someday we would build. We just didn't know exactly when.
What was the timing, Susie, between those 8 years before in terms of kind of fleshing out your business plan and getting ready? Can you talk a little bit about those steps before you started to break ground and put the dream together?
Well, that's I don't know if we have enough time on this show for that, but there was a lot that went into it. We thought we were ready once we hit 100 kids a week. We thought I thought we were pretty big stuff. But when we started putting the numbers together, we realized that, we weren't ready. So it was a matter of, again, it was during that time that we really started to hunt for more pool space. We really started to add more classes. I started to add more staff. I was really figuring it out as I went. And so once we hit about 400 kids, my husband, being a banker, was pretty sharp with putting projections together. And we knew at that point, we also had worked very closely with a friend of ours, his name is Callie Spurl, and he was with an architectural firm that he owned. And he was super, super good to us, where he just said, hey, Al, if you put me into the project, I will, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't reveal this information, but if you put me into the project, I will, I'll design your swim school for you, and I won't charge you until you do it. And that was kind of what we needed at the time. And so that we could get an idea of what that cost might look like. But it was also during that time that we went through some very difficult challenges. My mom became very sick. And so while I was doing all of the stuff with getting the plans together and finding financing and all of that kind of stuff, I was also driving back and forth once a week to Madison to help out my brothers and help her out. And she ended up in the hospital and doing things. And then my dad ended up in the hospital with a heart issue also within 18 months of that. And then both of them passed away within 6 months of that. So, and then went through also a very tough time was right before COVID hit, that my brother passed away. So that was all right before our groundbreaking, and getting everything settled with financing and everything. I mean, there was probably 7 or 8 banks that we had to go through for financing that wouldn't approve us. Building a pool is very, very challenging when it comes to, it's a special use building. So, appraisals don't like it, and, builders don't like it, things like that. So there were a lot of challenges along the way. And then we, of course, opened our doors in June of 2020, right in the middle of COVID. So, somehow we made it through. We had to make sure that we were a well-oiled machine when we opened up. And, we were kind of one of the lucky ones where, what am I trying to say here? Sorry. We were one of the few businesses in swim that were able to open up. We were considered essential, whereas all of the other like YMCAs and other swim clubs, because they had public dressing rooms and public locker rooms for other things, they had to be shut down. So we had to prove to the state that we had a really good system, and we were, of course, brand new, so we were pretty sparkly clean. And we got approved to stay open. So we were really hoping that we were going to open with 500 kids so that we could break even. And in June of 2020, we opened up with 700 kids a week.
That's a great story. We will continue with the discussion after our first break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Spore on WHBY, and we will be right back.
Welcome back. We're glad you joined us this morning. Our guest is Susie Van Ekeren, the owner of Wisconsin Swim Academy. Before we continue our conversation with Susie, I'd like to tell you a little bit about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. With offices in Appleton and Green Bay, we serve an 18-county area in Northeast Wisconsin, plus Menominee County in Michigan. We have over 50 volunteers, and each of them is an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs with no cost and confidential mentoring. The areas of expertise include marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic business planning, workflow, human resources, retail, and just best business practices, amongst many other specialties. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session or to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting or growing your business. When visiting our website at score.org, Northeast Wisconsin, you can complete an online application for a no-cost confidential mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a mentor will reach out to you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is a no-cost service and offers experts who can help you with experienced mentoring in many different areas of your business, whatever those needs are. To get started, simply visit our website, again, score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. Also, to support small business people and entrepreneurs, SCORE is always looking for new mentors and subject matter experts. If you have an expertise and experience that you'd like to share with others looking for your help, we would love to talk to you. Go to score.org, Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button, and fill out a short application. Someone will get back to you shortly to explain more. And thanks again for joining us this morning on Biz Talk, along with our guest, Susie Van Ekeren. Susie, you were talking in the last segment about how you got the business started, including during the time of the pandemic and COVID. But you also mentioned you had about, at this time, close to 700 students a week. Not only were you managing this and overseeing this transition from hotels and other locations into a new building, but you had to staff up for this and get more help. Could you tell us a little bit how you managed to put together your team at the Swim Academy, both in full-time and maybe part-time folks?
Yes, I would love to do that. Before we shut down for the pandemic, we were servicing about 400 students. And so we did have some existing full-time and quite a few part-time staff. We had probably about 30 to 35 people, but I will say that probably 30 of them were high school kids at the time. Now, I will tell you that, swimming has always been my passion. This swimming lessons, this business has been an absolute blessing for us. But it has never been just about that for me. It was really about, early on when I started to realize, even before the pandemic, all these teenagers, that most of them came from great families, but there were a few that came from struggling families, and they struggled themselves. And so it was more about mentoring for me. And that was how I treated my staff. They were like family. These kids were all like family to me. So I really put a lot of effort into my staff, and because of that, they felt cared for, and we had a fantastic culture. And due to that culture, I really didn't have to work too hard to get other staff in. They referred their friends to us, and they wanted to work for us. And so that was really a big bonus for us when it came to staffing. And through that, obviously when we started, we knew we were going to be able to open again. We started, hitting up the high schools and things like that, and our own current staff, and offering referral bonuses, and the applications kind of came flooding in. I think everybody at that point was really ready to get out of the house and be able to do stuff. So, I have to be honest with you. I actually have a dozen or more kids, even currently on my staff and through the years, that I began teaching in my backyard that now work for me. And that probably has been one of the best, feelings of like, when you're building a business. And, one of the best compliments I should say that I could have is that, they've been there from the beginning and that they work for me now. And, some of them are just, part-time. Some of them go off to college and they've come back. But I have quite a few, throughout the years that have done that. So.
It's wonderful. Hand in hand with having staff that has that attitude that buys into your mission and vision for the academy. There's also, as you grow and are successful, there's managing the business of the business itself. So the administration, the bookkeeping, legal aspects, all of those. How did you set that up in a way that complemented, didn't interfere with the teaching and the lessons, but yet were able to manage the business in a good way at the start?
Well, I will tell you that honestly, I have to put this plug in there because I actually had several people from SCORE that helped me out. There were many times I had somebody from the finance area that came in and helped me out. As a business owner, I was a visionary. I will tell you that I have my whole life surrounded myself with people that are smarter than me, because I knew that I could not do it all. I had several people, that I leaned on. Early on in 2021, I hired a business coach, from Journey Consulting. Her name is, Jane McQuillan. She has been an absolute angel as far as I'm concerned in helping me kind of get through. We grew incredibly fast from 2020 to 2021. Matter of fact, we opened with 700 kids, and by December of that year, we were at 1,000 kids a week. And so she helped me through a lot of that. The whole financial end of it was never I would say a strength of mine. So, right away, I hired somebody on that could help with that. In 2022, my third son, came to me, and he was going to be graduating from college, and originally was going to go into physical therapy, but with the whole COVID thing, he decided to go a different route. And luckily for me, he has his dad's brains when it comes to finances. And so I immediately started to learn how to delegate. And that was one of the most important things that I would say, Jane taught me, because that's really hard to let go. But one of the people that I got, his name is Gary from SCORE. One of the first things that he did for me was he offered me, he gave me a book. It was called The E-Myth, and I read it. And it was all about teaching somebody else how to make the pie, and that was what I lived by.
Okay. Great. We're going to continue that conversation after our next break. You're listening to Biz Talk with SCORE on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Biz Talk. This week we're talking to Susie Van Ekeren from the Wisconsin Swim Academy. But before we get back to Susie, I have a quick education update to give to you. First, in September, on September 22nd, we're holding our third annual Accelerate Your Business for Women. So it's Accelerate Your Business for Women 25, September 22nd at Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells. There's a $89 fee, and there will be presentations, networking, panels, etc. And the last couple of years have been really great and had really good attendance. In fact, I believe they sold out. So it's an opportunity to go and meet a lot of people. You can get room discounts, etc. as you go to the conference. But if you go to our website, it's score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, all one word. You'll find a posting there. You can click on that and register, but it's $89, and we'd love to see you there. The other thing I'm going to mention, and we'll be providing more information on this later, is that Biz Talk is going to tie into that conference, and we're going to do a series of shows on women in business in September. I can't give you a lot of details yet. We're working through them, but we've got a lot of stuff coming, and we're looking forward to it. The conference has always been great. So if you're interested, please attend. And just to be clear, it's open to men as well, but there's things we're doing really focused on helping women build their businesses. So with that, we're going to turn back now to our guest, Susie Van Ekeren. And Susie, let's continue on with that last discussion a little bit, and let's talk more about the whole transition with employees and even how you brought your son in to help and where that led.
Yeah, well, like I said, when we started off in 2020, we had about 35 to 36 employees. We currently have 50 plus employees right now. Again, we've kind of done it through, word of mouth and through, getting our employees to refer their friends. We have built our business on culture. And I really feel like that has been the most important thing that we could have ever done throughout the years. We treat our employees like their family. We love them. We have studied and really kept ourselves up on the generations and what their needs are, what they like, what's important to them. And then we have catered to our employees in that way. The current generation is all about experience and things like that. It's not so much about money to them. I mean, not that they don't want to get paid, they do, but they really want to make sure they're enjoying life, which I think is amazing. And so we've definitely tried to have flexible schedules for them. We understand as high schoolers that they have a lot of pressure. So we try to, our schedule for our employees is really based around their sports schedules so that they can, do their sports, feel supported, and have very limited hours during that time, and then ramp them up when they're not doing that sport. So, these are kids that, they all have a love for kids too, and they're all going into some kind of college degree of something that's either teaching or childcare or nursing or things like that. When you are teaching a child to swim, there's not only just the teaching part of it that's involved. There is a psychological part involved. Every child is different. And when you are teaching kids that, smaller class sizes, you're getting kids that sometimes come in that, don't actually do very well in a larger class setting. So lots of energy and that this, the smaller class sizes gives those instructors an opportunity to one-on-one with those kids, learn how they learn and be able to put some of their own personality into the swim lesson and the lesson plan and make sure that those kids are set up for success. So through that, they learn and to better themselves as human beings, and it gets them prepared for college.
So, you stepped back a little bit from the day-to-day running of the business now as you built this team.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been for you?
Well, I think it's always a challenge for any business owner to let go. I feel extremely lucky that my son wanted to come on board with me. That was certainly not the plan. And originally when he asked me if he could come work for me, I said no. But when he was in college, he did make a switch, and he had written a paper he took some entrepreneurial classes, and he wrote a paper on my business, and I didn't know about it, and then he sent it to me. And it was pretty tear-jerking to read it. But he really grew up with the swim academy, at first, but before we were in the hotels, he would come downstairs in the morning, and I had to, always remind my boys, by the way, we have a staff meeting this morning, so don't come downstairs in your underwear. But they grew up with that. So he's been with it all, this whole time and been watching, and I didn't realize how much of an influence that was on him. So he wanted to come in on the business, and he came in with a lot of great skills. When he was in high school, he did work for me for a little while. He was a 3-sport athlete, so I didn't have him throughout the year a lot. but he absolutely loved kids. And it was kind of a passion of his. And he shares that passion with me now, which you don't find a lot. You always feel like as the owner, nobody's going to have more passion about it than you do. But I think I found it with him, and he's done an absolutely amazing job. Has taken our staff to a whole nother level, and really carried on that cultural piece. We work with, we're lucky enough that his brand new wife just got married 2 weeks ago. Her dad, works with a company called Team Trek. And, he has gifted us, many times, has come in and helped our staff grow in the ways of, keeping our culture real and, having crucial conversations and teaching us how to mentor each other. So, that has been phenomenal. Letting go has been, Jane's made that a little bit easier for me. And it has actually helped me to grow by letting go, of the day-to-day stuff. I have now been able to, I applied for an actual, seat on the board of directors for the United States Swim School Association, and currently do serve on the board. And I have that seat for the next 3 years and hope to continue to be on that so that I can make sure that I keep up with the industry and be able to continue to grow the business.
Excellent. So we're going to make a shift here from, we've been talking a lot about the how. We're going to move to the what now and talk in a little more detail about what you do, because I was really surprised as I went through your website to see all the different aspects of this program and how you've tied everything together so well. So let's start. Talk about the swim levels you offer and how the progression works.
Well, we offer swim lessons all the way from babies, 6 months of age, all the way up to adults. So we have parent-child lessons where we really teach babies from 6 months to 18 months or to 2 years of age. And that process is not just about teaching the babies. It's also about educating the parents, and just letting them know about the dangers of water and how kids of all ages are just attracted to water. And the fact that they need to make sure that they're diligent in when they are around water and keeping their kids safe, and understanding that when you are the water watcher at that time, that's all you're doing. You're not on your phone. You're not talking to other people. You're not taking a bathroom break without somebody else coming into your spot. That you're really being diligent about that, because drowning is a very serious situation, and it's silent. It's not like people think. It's not like it is in the movies. It literally takes less than 30 seconds, and you wouldn't necessarily know what's happening if you weren't paying attention. So we do that. And then we have, but with babies, you can actually teach them at 6 months of age to roll over to their back, and actually kind of maneuver themselves towards safety until somebody can get to them. Then we move into our jellyfish classes, which is our 2 years old up, 2, 3, 4 years old, depending upon where they're at. By then, those kids are swimming off the step about 5 feet independently to you. They can roll over their back independently. And if they were to fall into the water, they know to turn around and get back to safety and how to get out safely. After that, we have clownfish classes, and those are also kids, again, depending. Some kids learn obviously much faster than others, but sometimes that's just about the birth order, but, those that can be anywhere from 3 to 5 year olds. Those kids are swimming almost 7 feet independently. And they're actually learning some of the strokes. They're learning how to do, they're learning about, buoyancy, breath control, and putting their arms and legs together and, actually propelling through the water. They're learning the breaststroke. They're learning, their front crawls. They're learning their elementary backstroke, which we call chicken airplane soldier. And then from there we go to our guppies, and they're swimming, between 10 and 15 feet independently. Those kids are, and true, honestly, if I back up the truck a little bit and go back to clownfish, they're starting to tread water at that age. So during their guppy phases, they're really learning to tread water for longer. They're building endurance. They are learning all about the safety stuff about swimming. From there, we go to our sharks, and they're swimming the entire length of the pool. Making sure that you're, again, building endurance, putting different strokes together. They're building those muscles, that muscle memory. And then from there, it goes to a real life situation. Our pool is only 25 feet by 50 feet. But from there, we actually rent some pool space at Lawrence University. And that's where we have our upper level classes, because that's a 25-yard pool and it's a little bit deeper. So from there, we have our orca and our marlin classes. And that's where we're really teaching them, like, hey, you know what? This is actually what a real swimming pool outside in the summertime is going to look like, or if you're in the lake or things like that. So we're really honing in on those skills, making sure that they are safe in the water and that they can swim longer distances and are safe. And from there, we have what's called a swim team readiness program. It's not a swim team. We actually partner with Fox Valley Wave as well as the YMCA. And these are kids that maybe are exploring, maybe going on to swim team, but they're not quite there yet. And what we do is we make sure that they are learning some swim team skills that they actually do there, so that when they get to swim team, they skip that first level. And so they can feel super confident, and we've set them up for success. Then when they get on in there, they feel really good about being there. And it's not their first time alone in the pool without a coach.
Susie, one of the times I was at the academy, I noticed you personally giving lessons to an adult. And I think one of the things in your safety theme is it's never too late to learn how to swim, and whether you're taking your family to the lake or whatever you're doing, that's hard for adults to admit they don't know how to swim. How do you find teaching adults or others kind of late in the game traditionally in swimming and safety?
Well, first, I agree with you. It is really hard for adults. And every single adult that comes to me and asks me about lessons, the first thing I do is I tell them how incredibly brave they are and how exciting it is that they have actually ventured into that. But I also tell them that what they're doing is so important, because if they have children themselves, then, if they're around water, their child is going to react the exact same way that they react. And what are they going to do if that child falls in the water and needs their help? How are they going to help them? Because if they jump in after them and they don't know how to swim, they're going to drown too. So they want to make sure that we give them the skills that they need to be able to save themselves and possibly save somebody else. And that goes for, I have a lot of older adults or grandparents or whatever that come in that never learned how to swim. And that's the first thing that I say to them too. And I think that helps kind of ease their mind. All of our adult classes are private. We don't do them normally. When I'm teaching, I don't do them during regular swim hours, because I think they feel uncomfortable being in the pool with a bunch of little kids. So we usually do them either usually in the morning before lessons begin. But that's usually what I tell them. And as soon as they hear that situation, they kind of agree that this is probably something they should have done a long time ago, but it's never too late.
So how do you communicate to both the swimmer and to their parents about their progress and when they're ready to move up?
So every single week we have what's called a skill focus week. So every week we will, during the lesson, we will focus on one particular skill. And we have deck managers that are continuously walking around the pool, and they will go from class to class and actually test that particular skill that's that week. And we post that skill on a board as parents walk in, and we also email things out to them. And then once they have passed that skill, or once they've been tested, immediately an email from our online platform sends them the progress for that particular skill. And then once they have passed all the skills in that level, then we go, and our deck managers will have a conversation with those parents and congratulate them, and then we move them into the next level.
Okay. So as we wrap up this segment, could you talk just a little bit about the type of classes? So you don't do many private classes, but I know you do some. Can you talk about that a little bit? We
reserve our private classes for families that have children with special abilities. Again, I think in the beginning I stated that was really where my heart is, and we work with different programs around. We have the Flat Foundation that provides scholarships in the Green Bay area. We also have the Hope Floats that we work with through the association, the United States Swim School Association. They also provide scholarships, and we also work through the CLTS program for the government, and they provide scholarships as well to give those kids private lessons.
All right. We have so much more to talk about, but so little time to do it in. We're wrapping up our third segment now, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to Biz Talk. And before we finish up our conversation with Susie Van Ekeren from the Wisconsin Swim Academy, we'd like to thank our sponsors and donors who bring Biz Talk with Score to you each weekend. We could not present Biz Talk without their generous support. First, a thank you to Hailing and Associates. Hailing and Associates helps small businesses and individuals, not with just tax preparation and returns, but planning ahead. A collaborative approach helping you minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Hailing and Associates, personal connection, positive results. A thank you also to Johnson Financial Group. Whenever you're in your life and your life of your business, the Johnson Financial Group works to understand your goals and matches the banking and wealth services needed to help you complete your mission. Thanks also to the Business News for promoting our program in the business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. The paper is delivered bi-weekly and contains relevant and useful information about the business community in the region. And also, we'd like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation in support of Biz Talk and SCORE in Northeast Wisconsin. Susie, before we finish up with a few last areas to discuss, would you please tell our listeners how they can best contact the Wisconsin Swim Academy to learn more about your programs?
We are located in the north corner of Appleton, and you can contact us through our website, wisconsinswimacademy.com, or by calling us at 920-427-8286.
Thank you very much. You shared a lot of information about the wonderful programs and classes and a great staff that you have in place, including family members who are picking up the mission and mantle that you started years ago. It's getting to be quite a business here in your location. Could you tell us a little bit about what your future plans might be for growth and further development of the Swim Academy?
Yes, I'd love to. I will say with the percentage of drowning that has gone up by almost 28% since 2019, there is definitely a huge need that we still need, and a lot of communities that need to be reached. With our current Appleton facility being at capacity, we have now started to look for a location in the Howard-Suamico area and have recently purchased some land. So we are going to be expanding into that area. The land deal is being closed this week. And along with that, we are going to add a few fun things to our program, such as a Sweet Peas. It's called Sweet Peas program, which is a toddler tumbling. So we're really hoping with that area, especially I know that there have been some closures with the YWCA. They've reached out, and people up there are desperately looking at getting into more classes. And the other swim locations up there, the Y is overflowing. That there's definitely a lot of people up there in that area that we can reach. So we're very excited to be able to do that.
Do you have some people currently coming from some distance to utilize the facilities here in Appleton?
We do. We currently have about 60 families that come to us from the Green Bay area. And so that'll be a nice transition for them. We've got some people that come all the way from Fond du Lac area and just all over the Fox cities.
Oh, wonderful. As we wrap up here, Susie, any final comments or messages you'd like to give about the Wisconsin Swim Academy?
I would just say, just keep swimming.
Well, Susie, would like to thank you a lot. It was a great show, and you're another example of a great business person in this area, and we really like highlighting those, and we're proud to have you in the area and the things you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. So to our listeners, you've been listening to Biz Talk with SCORE. You can find this episode and previous ones at our website, score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. Or as of next Wednesday, this will be out on one of the podcatchers such as iTunes or Spotify or Amazon. And most importantly, you can listen to it live and on the internet, AM and FM, on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in WHBY. So thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a great week.